I had muted both my mic and the video, but how did you hear me? I was audible. For instance, Murasetla heard me.
Yes.
Am I muted on the side? Well, I have unmuted now.
Yes. You unmute when you need to speak, and then you mute again once you are done.
Honorable Ngobo, you have muted yourself. Good morning.
Honorable Adwins.
Hello, Mr. Paul.
Honorable Adwins, we do constitute a quorum. There's been a few members that have joined us. I'm just not sure whether you maybe want to start the present, and then the others can join us as we go. I now have yourself, Honorable Malachi, Honorable Morwa Shetla.
We do constitute
I have Honorable King, Honorable Founder Vault, Honorable Tembekwayo, Honorable Nobo joined us. I'm just not sure whether you and then maybe the others can join us. The others can join us. I now have challenges as well as Honorable Machezi and Honorable Mashabela. Those are the three that have been in contact. The others can join us as we go. Join the meeting. I now have yourself and then maybe the others can join us. Thank you, Honorable Mocho.
It's fine. Okay, we can start now. As we said, the approval of it's fine. What we take is the I'm present. Okay, it's fine. And I would suggest that all the members will just vote, and then we'll take the motions and the discussions after that.
Chairperson, can I also further request that everybody please make sure that the mics are muted. Only speak when they only unmute when we get to questions. To please have all mics muted. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, all the best and then all of us, I request all of us to do that so that when we get the
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for inviting us to this team to come and present on the, I don't know whether to call it state of readiness or progress report as of schools is concerned. You know that the schools were opened on the 1st of June and learners came back on the 8th of June. And at that time, yes, we're almost at 95 in terms of attendance and the number of schools that were open. There are schools that were not open due to in some instances due to water and sanitation, due to vandalism, infrastructure, due to some of the COVID-19 necessities were not delivered at the schools, but we have worked on that. And now, when we want to claim that 100% schools are open, we still are facing challenges. Chair, like if maybe I know DG will present, but if I can just tell you that in the Eastern Cape, when we opened, 583 schools could not open at a time due to the reasons that I have alluded to. Free State, all schools were opened. Gauteng, of the 2,162, 1,997 were opened, which means of in KZN, only 48 were not ready on the day. In Limpopo, 42 were not ready. In Mpumalanga, 88 were not ready. And in the Northern Cape, 54 were not ready. In Northwest, 60 were not ready. In the Western Cape, they claim that it's only 3 schools due to vandalism and destruction of electrical and water reticulation system. Those are the schools that were not open. But again, after we have opened, schools were affected by COVID-19. Eastern Cape, 154 was affected, were closed, but remember the closure is not permanent. Then Free State, 12, Gauteng, 176, KZN, 63, Mpumalanga, 10, Limpopo, 3, Northern Cape, 11, Northwest, 14, Western Cape, 332. The number in Northern Cape of the schools that are affected by COVID-19 on both teachers and learners, they are 332. But what we must know is that these schools are temporarily closed. Then after all the health protocols have been done, then the schools get reopened. I'm not giving the entire presentation. The DG will present and will tell us maybe even about the schools that were vandalized, the issue about water and sanitation, and the COVID-19 essentials, teachers and learners which were affected, and the readiness for the 6th of July. 6 or 7, whatever date, and a differentiated timetable and curriculum, because I had some members asking, joining those people who claim to be representing communities who want to claim that schools must be closed, who go around and lobby people. But I'm so happy yesterday I saw a communique from Sanko and Kosatu and Satu from the Eastern Cape, dissociating themselves from that. They said, no, they are not party to that, but now they are for schools to be open. So we really, really appreciate that mood, because people will do things under the pretext or in the names of other people. So we are happy to hear that the official structures, they denounce that. They say, they're not part of it. In his presentation, DG will also cover issues of school nutrition, scholar transport, and the monitoring that the department is doing, and many other things that I may not say now. If you allow me, Chair, can I allow the DG to present? DG?
Yes. Okay, thank you, DM. DG, please, you can continue.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the Honorable Deputy Minister. The presentation, as the Deputy Minister clearly indicated, it's about giving an update on the state of readiness on the reopening of schools. Chair, let me remind the Honorable Committee that we presented the COVID-19 Basic Education Sector Plan on the reopening of schools. And that plan has evolved over time. And when we presented the plan, both to your Honorable Committee and to other forums, the plan was applauded as being quite comprehensive. The only factor that caused some consternation when we presented to your Honorable Committee was a matter that related to dates which were old. Because at the time, the new dates were awaiting the approval of the National Coronavirus Command Council, they could not be shared in that meeting. But in essence, we presented a plan and we've implemented the plan, and we are going to try and do two things with this presentation. One, to give an update on how far we have gone in terms of implementation of the first phase of the two grades that we brought back to school. And the second part of what this presentation would do would be to also give an update in terms of our preparation for the next group of learners that are coming. And the last point will reflect a little bit on the impact that COVID-19 has had on schooling and the likely impact even in terms of the future. Because we do collect this information through the world organizations such as UNESCO, such as the World Bank, such as UNICEF, such as the World Food Program. So we do collect this information and we're able to use it in terms of decisions that we make at our level and policies that we come up with to mitigate some of these adverse effects. This is the outline of the presentation, an extensive presentation, but I'll do my best to go through it as quickly as possible. We can move to the next slide. The next slide, Chair, is really about the purpose of the presentation. And I'm going to go over that one. And then the next one is about the introduction. And in the introduction, we have a slide that is referred to as the problem statement. And in this slide, we can see the impact of COVID-19 being disruptive in terms of the well-being of learners, instructional time, where the world bodies that I've referred to indicate that children who come from poor households are likely to lose learning opportunities far more than children who come from rich families. And this is likely to even lead to things such as teenage pregnancies, sexual exploitation, child marriages, and children missing things such as, school feeding, missing, the benefit of school feeding, and also psychosocial support that they could get from schools, including immunization let alone issues of peer interaction and so on. And then we also provide in slide number 6, the slide on my screen doesn't seem to be moving, but I'm on slide number 6. And the question that is being asked there is why reopening schools? And again, we get the same reasons that I've just alluded to earlier on, repeated as to why is it important for schools to really reopen. I'm now on slide number 7, Chair. This is the latest assessment of the impact of COVID-19, and you getting a very comprehensive assessment of the impact that COVID-19 has had on learners in terms of the school year. But what is also very important about this slide is to even begin to project how this is going to impact on future earnings of children who are part of the cohort of 2020, which is very important for all of us and significant not only for now, but for the future. As we all know, the future does not belong to us, is borrowed from our children, and how we deal with the future, we need to be very conscious of these facts that are indicated here on this slide. Many of our critics, I hope, they could be reading, information like this, so that when they criticize us for reopening schools, they also interact with the scientific information that is starting to be very scary in terms of how the future might look like for our children if we don't secure opportunities for them to learn. The next slide, Chair, I'm getting into schools which could not reopen. The slide, the screen before me doesn't seem to be moving at all, but I'm on schools which could not reopen. And the first thing, that's slide number 9, Chair, from the presentation that we have sent to you. And I should have indicated that we have updated this presentation quite extensively, but I'm on slide number 9, and slide number 9 is entitled Directions. And in these directions, the head of the department is expected to report every 2 weeks on COVID-19 cases. The HOD is also expected to formulate a plan in instances where a school does not meet the health, safety, and physical distancing requirements, particularly to make sure that alternative arrangements are in place for learners who are supposed to be receiving schools that could not reopen because they could not meet the health, safety, and physical distancing requirements. We had a meeting last night. I know Honorable Ngobo will be very happy to learn that NATU was part of that meeting. We started at 6, we finished at 9. And the HODs attended that meeting with the 5 teacher unions to give an update and to talk about these things that I'm presenting about to the Portfolio Committee. And I'm doing this with confidence because I have the latest information from HODs from the meeting that took place last night. And the directions also expect parents to assist in terms of collecting work that is needed and the material for learners to continue with their learning whilst they are at home or alternative arrangement is found for them. It also caters for the opening of the aftercare centers. The next slide clearly indicates schools that could not reopen. The Deputy Minister went through this. For instance, in the Eastern Cape, we can see how many schools could not open. 583 schools could not reopen. And the reasons range from non-availability of water and sanitation, as well as COVID-19 essentials. I must also indicate that especially the shortage of COVID-19 essentials, including provision of water, we did come across in the Eastern Cape the regional tendencies of some of the local business people who said, if you are expected to deliver on COVID essentials or deliver on water, if you don't come from our area, we are not going to allow you to do so. So we did come across that. In the Free State, we can see it was only 2 schools. In Gauteng, we can see it was only 4 schools. And some of the reasons that I've already cited, COVID-19 essentials, they also obtained in Gauteng. We also had disruptions from COSAS, including in the Free State, but it was only for a short while. And after the interaction that happened between MECs, heads of the department, and so on, schooling continued. In KZN, we can see 48 schools were not ready to open, and the reasons are also indicated there. Limpopo, 42 schools, and we can see in Mpumalanga, 88. Mpumalanga, the first day of reopening, I mean, we saw even on TV a school in Mpumalanga when learners and parents pitched to reopen. The gates of some of the schools were locked by local business people who were unhappy with the fact that the work of cleaning schools was not given to them. It had nothing to do with our readiness. The work of cleaning schools was not given to them. In the Northern Cape, we can see that 54 out of 508 schools not really from water and sanitation to COVID-19 cases.
Can you pause? Mr. Brown, can you assist us with the member whose mic is on?
We are doing that, Chairperson.
Please?
We are doing that,
Thank
Chairperson.
you.
I've had my IT guy just to do that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, continue, DG.
Yeah, they are extremely disruptive, Chair. Thank you very much for that. And then the Western Cape, 3 schools were affected, and the issues are indicated. Vandalism is a real problem in the system, and it's a drawback to the system, and we have seen many schools suffering electricity and water reticulation because of vandalism, Chair. I'm now moving to management of COVID-19 cases. It's slide number 13 that I'm on now. And there's something wrong with somebody who's moving the screen. The screen is not moving at all. So I am on slide number 13, Chair. I hope you'll be able to follow me. I'll keep just showing because the presentation has indeed been shared. Well, we follow the standard operation procedure in terms of dealing with COVID-19 cases. There is regular screening. You get screened before you enter premises of our schools. If you present with symptoms, then you are put in an isolation room and the Department of Health kicks in. We use the integrated health program, linking every school to every health facility and a health practitioner to come in immediately when symptoms are picked up. And this is the system that we are using throughout the country. And these are the cases of COVID-19 so far. And the health experts are indicating that in all likelihood, as we can see, and we're giving, the comparison of the number of schools, number of learners, and the number of staff. And the health experts, as I said, indicate that in all likelihood, these are coming from community infections and therefore they are picked up in our schools, at the workplace, and so on as we begin our activities. And the numbers, as we can see, the numbers are quite varied from one province to the other. And we can see that in terms of the number of learners, the Eastern Cape is quite high, followed by Western Cape. In terms of the number of staff, the Western Cape is high, understandably so, because the community infections are quite high in the Western Cape as well, as we all know, followed by the Eastern Cape. The management of comorbidities, and I'm sure Honorable Muraseta will be very happy to learn that what he had requested me to do, I will give him an update, particularly around comorbidities. He brought to my attention, I'm on slide number 15 now, which is comorbidities. And I'm moving to slide number 16. And in terms of slide number 16, the management of comorbidities is based on collective agreement number 1 of 2020, which is about concession process to follow for employees with comorbidities, which was signed between employer and employee parties in the ELRC. And in short, this is an extremely useful collective agreement. The only flip side about this agreement is that, and I know Honorable Murad Setla will be very excited to hear this one, it's around the turnaround time, the time it takes for the department to indicate to the educator whether permission has been granted or not, whilst waiting for the department to process the request to work outside the schooling environment. And I must emphasize, working from home for teaching, it does not work. You can beam lessons from outside the classroom, but it requires equipment that are extremely expensive, or you can prepare lessons, but somebody would have to deliver those lessons on your behalf, and then you can mark the work at home and so on, but it presents a lot of logistical challenges which many schools will not be able to meet. Now, what we are doing is that we are shortening the turnaround time, Honorable Murad Setla, from a long period that schools will have to wait for to a maximum of at least 10 days for a department to make the decision so that educators could even be replaced. Because it's no point of saying that learners must go back to school when you find that some of them don't have educators in certain subjects because of comorbidities. So I just thought that I must bring Honorable Murad Setla up to speed about that matter of the turnaround time. His concerns and analysis was spot on, and I took it up with HEADCOM, and we processed it through HEADCOM. Last Saturday, we are taking it to CEM, which is happening 2 days after today on the 2nd of July. And we're hoping that CEM will approve, and then we'll have the turnaround time shortened to about 10 days. These are the numbers of people who are 60 and above, and we link in that to people who have also applied for a concession in terms of comorbidities. We can see that the highest number seems to be the highest number of people who are 60 years old and above seem to be in Gauteng, but when you look at people who applied for comorbidities, the highest number seems to be in the Eastern Cape with 3,652. And we also indicating on slide number 18, Chair, arrangements for substitute educators. And these have been done. We're using those posts. We're also using Funza Lushaka bursary graduates. We use our database of people who are qualified but not employed. We also use fourth-year Funza Lushaka graduates in terms of doing their practicals and so on. And then we also use circuit and district offices to provide substitute educators. Now, Chair, Professor Jansen and social media experts never imagined that we'll be able to meet the health, health safety and physical distancing requirements with the numbers that we have. Little did they know that we have in our back pocket something called differentiated timetabling. And I'm going to take you through differentiated timetabling, which means that schools will not run the way they've been running for all these years, because they have to observe 1.5 meters distance, learners between themselves, in the classroom and in the school premises. And I'm going to go through two examples of such. The team has been extremely innovative. We're using the capacity of our schools to 50% and less. And we are saying schools are either going to opt for a bi-weekly rotational system in terms of their timetables. Others are going to opt for going to school every day, but rotating the number of days to keep the school to be at 50% occupancy level. And there is also something called platooning, where you have two sessions, one session in the morning, the other session starting midday up to later in the afternoon. Many of you, I know, would have gone through something like this. But we also have what is called a hybrid of the three, but also your traditional timetable that you could use. So we've got 5 models that could be followed by school principals, school management teams, and school governing bodies. We've presented these models to the 5 teacher unions, to all school governing bodies, to all associations, and all stakeholders in basic education, and your NGOs, your civic organization platform, we presented to them. They were thrilled, and I put my head on the block. I challenge anyone to look out elsewhere in the world and check countries that have gone back to schooling to check whether they are not implementing what we are talking about here. This is the only way to adhere to health, safety, and social distancing requirements. The slide now that is before you, Chair, just demonstrates the bi-weekly timetable model. You'll appreciate that in the bi-weekly, in the first week, you can see it's grade 12, grade 8, and grade 9. And then, and it gives you the days there as they progress. And of course, in the second week, you can see what has changed. It's only grade 8 and grade 9. You now have grade 10 and grade 11. But grade 12 remains a common denominator, given the fact that the curriculum of grade 12 is not going to be subjected to trimming. We're even working on the timetable for grade 12 learners. Learners might even write their exams up to the 22nd of December, and marking will start immediately after that and go up to January, and learners might get their results towards the end of January 2021. So that's what we've planned to do. That's what the team has been working on behind the scene during lockdown, working during the day and even during the night. Daily rotation, and that's what we are presenting to you in terms of the daily rotation. I'm on the next slide, and I can see the screen moving very slow. The daily rotation, the schools that adopt the daily rotation, You can see that for week 1, in terms of daily rotation, we see grade 12, grade 11, and grade 8. And what is going to alternate the second day on Tuesday, instead of grade 8 and grade 11, you now have grade 10 and grade 9. And those grades keep changing just like that. And when it comes to the second week and the daily rotation, we're giving you how the grades are going to be accommodated there to maintain the 50% occupancy and to make sure that the number of learners who are on school premises are such that the school management team, the teachers would be able to supervise and make sure that nothing is left to chance. Health, safety requirements, and social distancing are our priority number 1. Saving life and saving livelihood is the balance that we pursue in everything that we do, Chair. And then we're giving platooning, and in platooning we also delineate. We are showing that the first session will start at half past 7, and it will end at 11:30. And we're showing there that the afternoon session will start at 12 o'clock and end at 4. And this is how schools would have chosen this model are going to be running their programs. And we're showing the advantages and disadvantages. And we've said to schools, you have to take all of this into account. And what has happened is that this is a bottom-up product. You didn't get some group of bureaucrats who came up with these models and said to schools, thou shalt follow this model. We said that schools must choose, and they must choose a model that will be able to fit their contextual realities. And the feedback that I have received is that indeed that has happened. And the second example, we essentially, Chair, in the next group of slides, we're demonstrating the same thing. We're starting with platooning, and the X stands for the morning session, and the Y stands for the afternoon session, basically starting from 8 to 12, and afternoon starting from 12 to 3 o'clock, depending on, the time allocated for periods that are going to be offered in an individual school. I've now moved to the biannual in a month timetable. I see the screen before me is running a bit slow. And there also we are indicating which days learners will be at school, which days will they be at home. And we are going to try and make sure that when they are at home, they are fully occupied, so that when they come back with the work that would keep them busy when they are at school and both at home. The alternating days, we're also giving examples there of what we have done. Because that is the only way in terms of the 52% of learners who are coming on the 6th of May. And I must say, Chair, although we are saying 52% of learners that we have planned for, we are not fixed to bringing the 52%. We've heard that community infections are flaring up, and we discussed this last night with unions. We've also been discussing it at HEDCOM, and we are saying our plan is extremely flexible. We are not just going to push for 52% to come if we can see that there is danger. The community infections that are happening in communities, they might spill over to schools. We are very cautious to that, and HEDCOM members have also confirmed that indeed the flexibility will look at all of these things, and we are going to present our recommendations to see on the 2nd that although we have our plans that we are presenting here, the 52 are expected to come on the 6th of May. we have prepared for them. And for any eventuality, we will have a very flexible plan that is able to adapt and to make sure that we also not only look at our capacity to run the system, but we also have to be mindful of the capacity of the health sector to deal with the flaring up infections in communities, because schools are located in communities. So we are alive to that reality, and we are working with the Ministerial Advisory Committee. We are working with the Department of Health. Our minister is in a constant interaction with the Minister of Health to take advice as we proceed with the work that we do. The next one is about school hostels, Chair. I'm on slide number 29. I'm now on slide number 29. School hostels, all the 9 provinces have done an audit, and we said to them, social distancing here, or physical distancing if you like, 1.5 meters, and some try to say, look, we'll have learners facing different directions. We said, no, that's not what the World Health Organization is saying. The WHO recommendation is that 1.5 meter all the way. In all our facilities, we are not going to compromise that. And that's what we are going to insist on. And you can see individual provinces have carried out audits. In some hostels, they had enough capacity to observe physical distancing. In others, they will need to bring in additional facilities, and many of them have done so already. But some can also be helped by the weekly rotational system, because some of these learners also occupy the hostel facilities on a weekly basis. And the weekly rotational system will help to ease the numbers of the learners to hostel facilities as well. I'm on slide number 32, Chair. Key learning programs. We're indicating that we've been providing support during lockdown, before lockdown, during lockdown, through digital online materials, through virtual classrooms, TV broadcast, radio broadcast. It's not an intensive technology-driven support or technology-driven platforms, and they are fairly accessible to a large number of our children. We go up to even community radio stations, which have an even bigger reach in terms of penetrating our communities. And this is how far we have gone in providing support to our young people who are still at home. We've received amazing feedback from the public, from individuals who said to us, thank you ever so much for the materials, for these platforms that you have created for learners to continue to learn whilst they are still at home. And provincial departments have also provided a number of platforms and materials through which learners are also supported. And the slide that I'm in, which is slide number 34, covers that quite extensively as well. I'm now on slide number 35, which is a continuation of the LTSM ICT extra tuition that has been provided by individual teachers. Some of them were even using WhatsApp. I mean, in some communities, HODs were able to indicate that the cell phone penetration ranges between 80 and 100%, which means that they are able to reach quite a number of learners who have also been giving feedback. School nutrition, as you would have seen, in terms of the impact of COVID-19, the need for reopening schools, one of the reasons why we needed to reopen schools is to make sure that we give access to our young people, and 9.7 million out of 13 million learners benefit from the National School Nutrition Program. And I must say, Chair, the NGOs such as Equal Education has really been writing letters to us before and during lockdown, raising concerns about the inability of young people to have access to the school nutrition program. All our schools have been feeding ever since we reopened. We've now even extended feeding to even learners who are still at home. All 9 provinces have made arrangements for learners who are at home to come to school and collect their portion of the feeding. Those who are in faraway places, we have also arranged food parcels for them to keep them for the duration that they would not be able to come to schools. And we've been getting pictures and regular feedback from provinces in terms of progress in this regard. I am now on procurement of COVID-19 essentials, slide number 38. Chair, you'll recall that many of our critics said we were not going to be able to provide COVID-19 essentials because in the past we have failed to provide textbooks and stationery. And I haven't come across instances where there was a widespread complaint about unavailability of COVID-19 essentials, which means the team has done exceptionally well. Provincial heads and provincial officials who have been working flat out throughout the week, through the day and sometimes through the night to make sure that we provide these COVID essentials. For grade 7 and grade 12, we have been able to meet the requirements. And in terms of the grades that are coming, we've been meeting with provinces on a weekly basis to give us an update. The subsequent other meetings are starting from tomorrow, and we are meeting with all the 9 provinces individually, going through the orders that they have placed, checking the deliveries and delivery dates, identifying where there are possible glitches, and putting our heads together to make sure that we address those glitches. We also follow just-in-time delivery, because if you deliver these materials too early, schools, some of the schools that get vandalized is because people want to gain access to these COVID-19 essentials as well. I'm now getting into emergency water and sanitation. 200 schools in the Eastern Cape. I'm on slide number 42, Chair, and this is the portion of the presentation that got updated this morning, because we meet every day 6 o'clock in the morning to deal with water of emergency provision of water and sanitation. 200 schools got vandalized in the Eastern Cape, 47 in Mpumalanga, 17 in Gauteng of now late. Before then, there were much more than 17. In Free State, 72. In KwaZulu-Natal, 467. In Limpopo, 124. In Northern Cape, 101. In Northwest, 129. And we're also giving an update of how many got repaired. In Western Cape, 115. And we're just giving a geospatial location of water and sanitation in the slide that follows, which is slide number 43. I'm on slide number 43 now. I've now moved to slide number 44, and I'm indicating water supply. And we had to deal with 3,335 schools in 6 provinces. The 3 provinces that are not part of this are Gauteng, Western Cape, and Northern Cape, because they indicated to us they have the capacity to deal with their challenges. Phase 1, Chair, was about only transferring 200 million to deal with provision of water tanks, to start filling up these tanks. And I can say that, I mean, a water tank, our tanks are the big tanks, big green tanks, not the small tanks that I've seen in the social media, people saying those are our tanks. They are not our tanks. Our JoJo tanks are the big ones that are able to accommodate 10,000 liters of water. And the price for that water tank is between 10,000 rand. The ones that can fill about 5,000 liters of water, the cost of that is 5,000 and less. In fact, we've paid less than 10,000 and less than 5,000 in every respect. The notion of 170,000 for a water tank, I don't know where it comes from. It doesn't come from us, and we are paying only what we know about. Phase 2 is then going to be carried through the 400 million. We have identified 600 million in total to deal with the issue of emergency water and sanitation. And I'm providing progress in the next slide. We're indicating the flashpoints, which is KZN at 42%, and we're also indicating, of course, as you can see, 38% as you continue with schools schools which have been covered, and eventually moving up to 86%. As you can see, and next to that is Limpopo. The rest of the other provinces are really covered. Eastern Cape has moved. We have reduced the number of schools that did not have water in the Eastern Cape substantially to about over 700 schools which did not have water have now been provided with water, Chair. And the next slide of phase 1 is also giving you the supply. We're indicating supply of 5,000 liters tanks. We're indicating the rates, the amounts, delivery of tanks. We're providing those details there, the number of days, the times that we expect those tanks to be filled with water, and the school principal has got to sign for this. We're just sharing in the next slide the challenges that we experience, particularly in Limpopo. Water tankers on the way to delivering water to schools, they got stopped by communities who said, we need this water more than schools need it. So they had to be stopped by communities, and they then decided to take the water which was meant for schools and was then used by communities. In other instances, communities even went to schools and used the water that we have provided to schools for community use. We have seen this in Limpopo, and we have also seen it even in KZN in many instances where some of these things happen, Chair. And we are also saying the long-term solution, we have put together a team from DBE, Comte, MISA, and SALGA. I've had a meeting with the DG of Comte, the CEOs of these organizations mentioned here, and there's a team at operational level to make sure that we get municipalities as water authorities to take over the responsibility of providing water. It cannot happen that Rand Water, which ideally is supposed to take the responsibility of providing water in Gauteng province, that it now has got to salvage the country in 6 provinces, and you are getting municipalities to take over that responsibility. We are also aware of municipalities that have collapsed because of the revenue that is not coming through, and we have encouraged our schools to pay for municipal services and bills so that they get regular supply of water. In Zululand, 501 schools which did not have water have now water, and in Mgungundlovu and other areas of KZN, many schools have now water there, and I'm sure Honorable Ngobo can confirm this. And then the next slide is about, again, emergency sanitation. We had to deal with 1,363 schools in 2 provinces, which are KZN and Limpopo. And we are indicating that phase 1, we allocated 30 million for 4 mobile toilets per school. And phase 2, we're indicating that it's then going to work out a 25 million pilot project for 600 ABT toilets at 100 schools. And phase 3, it's accelerated safe implementation, eradication of pit latrines. And that's how we are going to be dealing with this. And the next slide, we just providing some details of how we delivering that, and we indicating the 2 provinces that are benefiting, and some pictures of some of these toilets. And we are woefully open and frank with you to say, in Eastern Cape, for instance, some of these local business people who insisted that we are not going to get anyone to deliver this mobile toilet units but themselves. They also delivered some of the mobile units that are of poor quality, which we had schools rejected them, and we had to terminate the contract of many of the service providers who presented mobile units that were of a despicable quality of these units, which is not what we expected from them. And we are just giving a comparison there on slide 51, that look at the one that is on my extreme left as compared to the one that is on my towards the right. Long-term solution, we're providing long-term solution there, and we are saying municipalities have to take over. I'm almost done, Chair, in terms of the directions. I'm on slide 54. We consulted with all stakeholders in basic education. We also called in the NGOs. We called in teacher unions in working on our last comprehensive set of the directions. You'll appreciate that up to so far, our directions have not been challenged in court, maybe because we invited all stakeholders, and we even said to them, give us your formulation, how you'd want us to formulate certain provisions which affect your sector as different stakeholders and so on. Association of Independent Schools, the NGOs came, they made a presentation, they advised us on what to change, what to add in our comprehensive directions, and eventually they were issued, and up to so far, we haven't been challenged. They range from the scope and definition as indicated in those numbers there. Entry to school premises is restricted. Visitors are not allowed in our schools because it will increase the risk of infection in our premises. Even parents have to drop their children outside the school premises and pick them up there. The issue of deviation in phasing in grades, the appeal process in case the head of the department has closed a school. The only authority recognized by law to close a school is the head of the department, not the community, not the school governing body, not the school management team. Our directions also cover school hostels. We've also covered in our directions the May-June exams, which will now move to the November-December exams. And we also no longer require a certificate to move from home to school. They'll only need a permit if they are moving from one province to the other. The same applies to employees, whether it be teachers or the non-teaching staff. General safety measures are also covered there. Symptom screening, sanitizers, disinfectants and masks, physical distancing and timetabling model, curriculum trimming and reorganization, the issue of the annual financial statement to take into account the realities of lockdown and COVID-19, and the withdrawals in terms of Direction 18 and the short title and commencement in terms of Direction 19. What are the challenges? Some of the challenges have been not knowing how to deal with COVID-19 cases that are picked up in some of our schools, but our schools have moved on quite quickly to know how to deal with this. There are schools that opened and closed more than once, especially where community infections have increased. So we really have moved in that direction. Comorbidities, I've spoken about the turnaround time, the issue of possible litigation and so on. Comorbidities of learners. We've also gotten an update from provinces, and the numbers will also be provided just to indicate, and have been provided rather, to indicate the number of learners with comorbidities. We've also seen some disruptions from organizations such as COSAS, but as I've said, there has been a engagements with COSAS at political level, even at administrative level. Some parents were against the reopening of schools, and some parents did not know that a parent has got an option not to take his or a child back to school. That option is there, is provided even in terms of the directions. They've got 3 options that are at their disposal. One is that they can register their children for home education. In certain instances, they can keep their children registered at school, but to work with the school, but they have to apply to the head of the institution or the school principal to have the child learning from home and collect the material from school and send back the work that the child would have done to the school. That arrangement has to be in place with the school. But also the third option is to do online learning, and that option also can be provided. So there are 3 options that parents have in case they don't want to send their children back to school. We've also observed some litigation, and I can say, Chair, up to so far, in all 5 instances that we appeared before court, the decision of all the 5 matters that were involved were in our favor. There is no court that has decided against us. And all these matters were people who were saying we should not reopen schools. The court ruled in our favor in all instances. The divergent views expressed by teacher unions and school governing bodies, and I must say there's been a lot of two-nathering between us and the 5 teacher unions and school governing bodies associations. We are working closely together, and I'm sure you will see with the next group of learners will be in the main speaking from the same sheet. The teacher unions have never been opposed to the reopening of schools. The Association of School Governing Bodies have also not been against the reopening of schools, but they've been cautioning against certain things that we have started to pay attention to as well. We've also seen personal attacks against the minister, purporting to the fact that the minister has taken the decision to reopen schools as an individual, which is not true. I mean, the way we operate in government, that cannot happen. It's even more stringent now under COVID-19. You can't do anything unless cabinet gives its stamp of approval. And even the Council of Education Ministers, the minister is unable to move until there's an endorsement at the level of Council of Education Ministers. The leaking of information whilst we are busy processing it has been one of the challenges, but we've put measures in place to deal with this problem. A sustainable provision of water and sanitation, I've indicated about the long-term measures that we have put in place to deal with this matter. Conditions and facilities in special schools, we've started to attend to that, and we've populated a dashboard that focuses only on special schools, to just put special schools on our radar to say, what is the status of our readiness on special schools? Among the documents, the 9 documents that we have sent to you, Chair, we've sent 9 documents to you. This is one of the documents that I'm referring to here. Vandalism in schools, the cost and the quality of COVID-19 essentials, we're looking at this. Visit by individuals and organizations to schools. We are saying this is restricted, is not allowed, and strengthening our communication. Thank you for indulging me, Chair. I can see that it's been a long presentation, but I'm sure you'll appreciate that it was worth taking you through such a long presentation. We had not come back to you to present on these things for a very long time, and there's been a lot of work happening behind the scene. Thank you ever so much for indulging me, Chair. Thank you.
Chairperson, good morning. It's Llewellyn Brown, the Committee Secretary. Chairperson Aduans or Chairperson Binko Gigaba?
Chair, Mr. Brown is the chairperson now in the meeting.
She is in the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I would hand over to the chairperson now. Welcome, chairperson. We were told you were struggling to log in, but you did not miss anything, because we requested that the department make all the presentations, and then when they're done, we'll give members to ask questions and discuss on the presentation that was done by the department. Can I hand over to you, Chair, to continue with the meeting? Chairperson? Honorable Gigaba?
Hi, morning to everybody. Honorable Aduans, as much as I am here in the meeting, but I am struggling with the sound. I'm requesting you to proceed. I am part of the meeting, but I am really struggling. I don't know what is happening with my teams today.
Oh, okay, Chairperson, there's no problem. DM, I want to hear from you if are you done with all the presentations today?
Chair, I think our presentation was exactly what the DG has presented. It covers everything. It covers before. That's why it has a question, why should we open? Covers the challenges, it covers beyond the reopening, the coming in of the other grades. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, DM, thank you very much. Thank you very much, DM and the team led by the DG. Members, can we now go for on and discuss on the presentation before us? There's a member there whose mic is on. Can we mute that member, please, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Adwins. I have, from my side, I've had indications from 5 members who has requested questions. I have Honorable Machezi, Honorable van der Walt, Honorable King, Honorable Soekers, and Honorable Tembekwayo. I would also just please request members to please keep their mics muted at all times. Thank you, Chair. Those are the 5 members that have requested.
Chair,
Honorable, my hand.
Chairperson.
Honorable
Please,
members,
Chairperson.
can you allow me to chair the meeting? Honorable members,
Chairperson.
there are 5. No, listen first.
Also,
Listen, I would request
I'm having a
that all
question
members.
also.
Can I request all members who want to raise questions after the 5 members that have been noted? Can they now tell us who are they, your name, and then we will take it from there.
Muratseta.
Murasetla,
Mashabela.
number 6. Mashabela, number 7.
Bosov.
Mr. Bosov, number 8.
Honorable Ngobo.
Honorable Shabalala, number 9, and Honorable Ngobo, number 10. Is that all, honorable members?
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you very much. You can start, Honorable Mashezi, and welcome. In that order,
Good morning.
Can you just follow the order as we have noted you?
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good morning to honorable members, and thank you to the DG for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. With regard to the teachers, the teachers that have, contracted the COVID-19, the 1,169, were there any of these teachers with comorbidities? Because the reason why I'm asking is because I went to a school whereby there were a couple of teachers who still were at school despite the fact that they had underlying conditions and also above 60. Because on your presentation, I saw that you have indicated that those that are above 60. And also, you have also a category of those teachers that have comorbidities. So what happens if you're above 60? Do you still go to school and teach, or do you have to be above 60 and have comorbidities as well? And of those learners that have, contracted the virus as well as the teachers, was there any psychological, psychosocial intervention that was provided to both the teachers and the learners as well? And the DG, regarding the fact that now 52% of learners will be returning to school, in terms of ensuring that they do get to school with the transport. I don't know, if you can maybe give us clarity in terms of, those learners who have to travel now, if there's gonna be social distancing in the buses and also the taxis. And what about the fact now that, the taxis have said that, they are going for full capacity? Will that be affecting our learners who are traveling by taxi, and what are we gonna do about that? And also, the schools that have more than, you have schools that would have like 60 learners in a classroom. What have you done to ensure that there is social distancing? Should their school go beyond, their capacity in terms of, abiding to the 1.5 meter social distancing? What will happen with that school if it has reached their capacity, despite the fact that you've arranged the platooning the differentiated timetable that you're talking about? What happens then in those cases? What arrangements have you made? Thank you, Chair.
Next.
Chair, Honourable Van der Walt, can I proceed?
Yes, please. I said, can you continue in that order?
I will go. DG, thank you for the presentation. And I must say, I think it would also be fair to thank everybody in the department and, of course, our teachers, learners, principals, and even the unions for thus far playing their part in a very difficult situation. I have three questions. The first thing was also about the issue of 1.5 meters desk situation in our classrooms. And I must say that I was hoping that if there are challenges, what plans are in place beyond the school premises? Have we been in contact with private sector to provide us some space? Because I'm sure there are schools in certain provinces that will not be able to, even with the program of ballooning, alternative days, whatever we refer to it as, will have challenges. I have a very important question. I think the issue around virtual classing using televisions, there's a tender that went out through USASA, I think, ASA, for televisions for over 100,000 learners. My concern with this is, and I would like the DG or the Deputy Minister to please explain to the committee, if that tender only closes on the 2nd of July, which is the end of this week, Thursday, how on earth will these televisions be purchased and delivered, installed to the matriculants? Because by the time that receive, they will start with their exams. So I really, really think there is something not right here. You cannot deliver when we write exams and leave school. So there are a lot of questions about that tender that went out. And then I hear the DG, and I'm very glad for the clarification that the water tanks that's running around on social media is indeed not, for sure not, the deliveries that's taken place at our schools. I also value the inputs from tanks that get lost and water being taken. It shows you how desperate people are, but we cannot allow that, of course. My question is, the 600 million rand that we passed on to Water Affairs and Sanitation for Rand Water to assist, at the end of the day, who is still the accountable officer? Is it DBE or is it Water Affairs and Forestry Department? Because it seems that there's a confusion and that one minister has a say and another minister not. And we would like to know who is the accountable minister at the end of the day for the water provision to our schools. Thank you, Chair.
Morning, Chair. I will continue. Honourable King. I would also like to thank everyone that has been involved so far, and DG also for the clarity that you have given us today. My thing is on special needs education first. We are aware that with special needs, staff will need additional PPEs. So I just want to find out, will this be bought from the conditional grant for staff members? And I went to the standard operating procedures, but in most cases, it is not clear on the health and safety measures for staff, because when you deal with an autism learner, they will need physical touching in most cases, and I see that we might have challenges in that regard. So I was very glad when you said you will be monitoring them closely, and also deal with advocacy groups who knows more on the to give us at least some advice on how to use this. With educators, slide 17, you say 18,791 teachers were over 60. Are there any plans in place to ensure that we give them an option for retirement so that we can get a younger base of educators to play these positions? And so how many educators are actually waiting to be medically boarded? Because I saw on the slide that there are quite a few teachers that have indicated that they've got comorbid conditions. So I'd just like to get an indication of how many educators are still waiting all these years to be medically boarded, because I still spoke to 2 people who are still waiting for 4 years to be medically boarded. School nutrition. On the 22nd of June, all schools should have tried to give food to all learners, not only to grade 7 and 12. It's commendable because I also saw in the previous question was asked that as of end of May, only 382,518 food parcels were handed out by Department of Social Development. And we've given Social Development the mandate to take over the role, not necessarily NSNP, but to at least see that most of those 9 million learners who do not have food have access to it. We did ask that the chairperson of the committee call the Department of Social Development together with basic education to discuss how they go about to ensure that most learners actually have access to a nutritious meal per day. And yet on this regard, I would also like to say that the committee shouldn't actually retract that statement where they actually chastise the Western government for providing food, whereas we saw that the Social Development Department could not do that. And this is something which we will be monitoring. On infrastructure also, I just want to talk about fencing. I've been to numerous schools, especially schools like Advance Primary and John Bazika High School in East London, where you will see dogs, people walking around the school because they've applied so many years fencing. They've even gone to the newspapers desperation. So I'd just like the DG to give us a clarity how far we with fencing of schools and the non-fencing, how that will have an impact on the spread of COVID-19 in our schools. When we look at the curriculum and the exam, I would like to know when is the intended exam date for the trial exams for grade 12s going to happen? And are we that confident that grade 12s will be completed with the syllabus in all schools for them to be able to write the exams, the trial exams wholeheartedly and with full content? Then also in the Eastern Cape, we've got cases where some of the schools, especially in the Mdansani area, have embarked on matric camps. I just want to get the view of the matric camp situation in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic and what is the DBE's view on that. And when we look at water and sanitation, yes, you did mention that many municipalities don't have funding. But in our municipality in the Eastern Cape, it is quite a shock to hear today in Daily Maverick that we have 14 municipalities that are completely bankrupt. And these are your big municipalities that actually provide water to most of our rural areas. And yet you say most of the municipalities should be asked to take care of the water situation. Well, DG, if we do not deal with the bankruptcy of municipalities and them coming on board properly, I'm afraid that the spread will be even wider in school because proper sanitation is not going to be adhered to. Thank you.
Shall I continue?
Members, yes. Can I make a plea? Can we all continue up until the last member, so that we don't disturb and say come in next and all that? Can we also do that, members, please?
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and I would join the team in saying thank you to the department for the presentation and also to just appreciate the hard work that you and all those in the sector has done to ensure that schools open. There are many challenges, but I know that there has been a lot of hard work that went into this. I just want to ask a few questions. I first want to comment and just say, DG, that all is not equal across the country. So here in the Western Cape, there are also many issues where many schools and communities felt that they were not ready to open schools. So we need to debunk the notion that it is, that all is perfect when it comes to the Western Cape. It is not the case. Then in terms of the questions that I have, there is a concern with the 52% occupancy of schools, that there is a huge, it's going to have an impact on the availability of classrooms that was highlighted by Honorable van der Walt. I just want to know that within communities, if the department has reached out to communities in terms of buildings such as your churches and community centers that can be utilized to accommodate more students, as well as the need for extra teachers that has been highlighted in my constituency specifically. An example is where a matric class they have matriculants, 5 classes of matriculants, which now with the new directives means that is increased to 14 classes. So just in terms of the extra teachers, and also the turnaround time of 10 days is appreciated because that was also highlighted as a huge problem. It is very commendable, the stakeholder engagement that was referenced by the DG. There is a need, however, to have more engagements at a community level. This Thursday here in the Western Cape, in the southern suburbs and in the city, there is going to be protests. And because people feel that the winter is approaching and the spread of the virus endangers children, and the options that parents have available are not communicated, it is not filtered down. So there is a need really to do that. I'm sure the department is aware, there's about 250,000 on social media in one group where there is a call for schools to close down, and many of the people on those groups do not know what the options are that is available to them. Then also it was brought up by Honorable King, if there can really come a communication around the camps for matriculants, because there has been also reports of camps being planned for matriculants. What other alternatives are there that the department is looking at to prepare matriculants for the exams? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation, the DBE. My first question is based on the Mukibe Primary School, the worst dilapidated school in South Africa, as it was reported on the media. And then I just would like to ask whether the 20 mobile classroom that were mentioned as being donated by a local mine, is it in operation? Has those classrooms being delivered to the school? Because the very same school is expected to receive another grade in their school. And then the second one is based on the Ramotsabi Secondary School and Ramutla Primary School, respectively, in Limpopo, where 2 girls were allegedly raped. And to ask, there is a comment by the MEC that the denseness of the forest will be reduced, but it's not about the denseness of the forest, it's about the shortage of transport for the learners. So my question is there any contingency plan in supplying extra transport for the learners so that these unforeseen circumstances can be avoided. The third one is based on Makaula Secondary, hostel facilities, and then which reported more than 240 people who were COVID-19 tested positive. And to say one of the problems is that there are no electricity poles because they were damaged during a COVID lockdown period, which there's no hot water there. So I just would like to know, because the DG is meeting with the MECs of provinces, how far are they with solving this problem, and how far are they with the supply of the PPEs? Because one of the major problems is that they did not adhere to the requirements of COVID-19 due to non-supply of the PPEs, please. And then I also would like to know about the distribution of the 400 mobile classrooms, even though it was not mentioned today. But my question is, where are those 400 classrooms distributed? Thank you.
Am I next, Chairperson?
Yes, you can come in, Principal.
Thank you very much, my chair. Let me join the queue in welcoming and appreciating this well-presented report. I must emphasize that. I love the energy, the passion, and the enthusiasm in the DG. Thank you very much, DG. When I put my ears down, I am informed, because I'm actually tracking you and how you work and operate, that every day in the morning, 6 o'clock, you meet all the district directors in the whole country in order to get the feedback as you prepare to come and give us this all important information. Number one is just information and an advice. The issue of disruptive elements within our communities. You see, you will always find concerned groups in any single part of the society. But the best way of addressing concerned groups is to consult, and consult sufficiently. You see, consultation is the first principle of Vatubili principles. You see, when you consult at whatever level, you in a way reduce the number of concerned groups, because even where people would think of constituting some concerned groups, they shall have found you having overtaken them through consultation. Can we encourage the education at all levels, including at the level of the school, the level of the province, districts, and nationally, to make sufficient consultations on any new innovation? Number two, on the issue of comorbidities. You are right, DG. I was all over you because of the confusion and disruption I saw this collective agreement bringing to our people. You see, teachers would just go to even these overnight doctors, get just a slip that I am not well. They go to school and complete forms, and then they jet to home for almost 30 days, if not the whole month. What of education? You see, we shouldn't be the victims of what we call the Cobra effect. In the process of correcting the mistake, we find ourselves having exacerbated it. So I want to say thank you very much, DG and the Deputy Minister, for having taken that one to heart. I was all over the DG because of the disruptions which I witnessed and saw. Thank you for correcting that, for having to sort out this turnaround time, reducing it from 30 to at least 10 days. Number 3, the issue of all attendance models. You see, DG, we want to appreciate this innovative approach you brought along. The platooning, the alternating days, alternating weeks, and also the normal attendance, of course, as it is. I know there will be schools which will qualify for normal attendance, of course, depending on the infrastructure and the number of human resource at their disposal. But however, the issue of consultation comes into the picture again here. If we go the route of platooning, DG and Deputy Minister, this one is going to call for us to make a very serious, if not in-depth, consultation. Because you see, it would mean there will be teachers who will come in the morning and there will be teachers who will come in the afternoon. And by so doing, there should be a morning transport and also an afternoon transport for those who will be coming after. It's going to cause a little bit of confusion. Whatever advice you give to the districts and provinces, I think you need to take all those points into consideration, because failing which here, we will find ourselves maybe in collision with even some of the our social partners, if not stakeholders like educators, I mean teacher unions, and also the student formations. Because some teachers may not agree. You will have to consult them sufficiently to go and work late in the afternoon, depending, of course, where they stay and what is taking place around them. But however, I am a member of the district COVID-19 command council in our area. And the lucky part of it is the province, the whole province, Limpopo, has agreed on this one of a daily. Thank you. Yeah, as a province, we have finally agreed on the issue of daily day alternating, because this one, it is not disruptive or interfering with anybody. If the learners, teachers will go to school the whole 5 days, but learners will alternate, others coming today, others coming the next day. You can take that to the market and see if it will add dividends for you. The last one is the issue on rent water entity. This is a trouble. DG and the Honorable Deputy Minister, the challenge on this one, even before we come to the challenge, let us appreciate their interjection wherein they came in to assist the situation as of now. But the following would be the question: is this going to be sustainable now during the COVID-19 and thereafter? The answer is no. And if it is not going to be sustainable, then it is about time that we encourage all the water boards in all other provinces to rise up and be found equal to the task. I'm asking my question as to whether after this COVID-19, will the water still be supplied to those schools, because COVID-19 will come and pass, but the schools and the challenges faced with will remain. Who is going to continue putting water into those jojos? The answer, it's questionable. It's a problem. The second question on the rainwater is whether you have got any signed MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with regard to your modus operandi, how you operate on this. Because I'm saying this because in some instances, jojos are just dumped in the schools and not mounted. And when we inquire, the CEO of rainwater of recent, during this week, last week, he said it is the responsibility of the Department of Education at that level and also the municipality to mount the JOJOs. I am asking my simple question here as to who is actually pathological here. Because if it is the responsibility of the municipalities and the Department of Education at that level, then the other question is there any agreement to that, or it's just a makeshift arrangement? Because if it is so, then we shouldn't be having a situation where some JOJOs are dumped rather than being mounted. Can we be of assistance as a brief in as far as that is concerned? Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable, is it Honorable Mashabela who's next, or Honorable Botov?
Yes,
Who's
it's
next?
Honorable Mashabela.
Next, then
It's Honorable
by Charles.
Mashabela.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Continue.
Can you hear me, Chairperson?
I hear you, Honorable Mashabela. All of us, we can hear you. Continue.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, we have a serious problem on the level of readiness and preparedness by the department. The fact that many schools did not reopen on the 8th of June because the non-negotiables for school reopening have not been met is a clear indication that the department is not ready to reopen school. And yet the department is pushing other grades to school. So we have grades 7 and 12 learners who are 3 weeks behind, but they are expected to write the same examination at the end of the year. And the department has not even produced a plan. The department did not commit itself in terms of the deadlines for delivery of personal protective equipment, classrooms, toilets, scholar transport, and additional teachers to deal with overcrowding, which means that the department is not ready at all. Some schools which reopen on the 8th are still using pit toilets and dilapidated buildings without water for regular hand washing. We are finding teachers teaching subjects they never taught before, which is a major problem. The department wants to employ additional teachers. When will this post be advertised? And how soon will these teachers start working? Learners are still walking long distances to and from school. On the 12th of June, Chairperson, a 17-year-old grade 12 learner from Ramuchavi Secondary School in Limpopo was raped on her way from school because she's traveling 14 kilometers, 7 kilometers to and 7 kilometers from school. I think, Chairperson, the decision by the department to reopen schools in winter is merely to loot millions of rands in the name of COVID-19. And this report, Chairperson, is not a true reflection of what is happening in schools. We're doing oversight all over. There is no such. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Chairperson, it takes a while to unmute. I want to also stand in the queue welcoming the presentation. And I think the department should be commended for opening the schools while there were a lot of resistance against opening the schools, while it can actually not remain closed forever. And I think in that sense, they did a good job to open where it can and to solve problems where it needs to be done. Regarding the teachers, the previous speaker said that the department plans to appoint more teachers. According to my last information, the department actually plans exactly not to appoint more teachers. And I just want to mention the plight of, school governing body employees, of whom many are unemployed now because these schools had a large reduction in the income while parents were not able to pay during the lockdown, and that some of these teachers had to been let go. And these people are available because I think, if we have all these different shifts, whichever model one works with, we're going to have to deal with fatigue with the teachers within a short time. Regarding the whole question about the water, the DG said he doesn't know where the amount of 170,000 Rand per tank comes from. Now, the first answer that the minister gave on our written question was that 600 million Rand was paid over to Rand Water in order to provide water to 3,500, the estimated number. And if you divide 600 million by 3,500, you get to 171,000 and so many rands. So that was the first answer, and our response was that the minister's answer raised more questions than answers because she didn't say anything more. We requested more information on that. Now the DJ has given us more information. Now he has said in this presentation that 200 million Rand has been paid over to the to Rand Water. Now, if we look at the 200 million Rand and we divide that between the 3,335 schools which had been assisted, it boils down to 59,970 Rand, 60,000 Rand per school. Now, maybe all the 200 million Rand has not been spent. I don't know where it is, and I also wonder where the other 400 million is, which the minister mentioned, but which has not been paid over. But if I look at the cost with a cheaper installation that the department managed or that Rand Water managed to devise, it means that it should cost to 12,863 Rand per school. And that would mean for the amount of schools or the number of schools, it would mean 43 million Rand in total. If we look at the more expensive installation, which was budgeted for, then it should be 28,000 Rand per school. Now, in all these calculations, I made the assumption that we work with a 10,000 litre tank in every school. And that would mean that the total cost would come to 93 million Rand, which is still more than 100 million Rand short from the 200 million which was paid over to Rand Water. So if I make these calculations all based on information provided by the DG, then I should repeat what we said the previous time, that the answers raises more questions than answers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's me.
Can
Hello.
continue, Matabalala. Yes, continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, everyone. And also good morning to our DM. I understand that she's also part of the meeting. Chairperson, I think I want to applaud and make sure that we congratulate the Department of Education for the well-presented report and also well-balanced report in terms of the information that we require. And for that, to me, I think it's a very good step forward, because you remember that when we were going to open the schools, there was a lot of noise. To me, that the doomsayers were trying to prevent us to open schools. And now that the schools are open and we are looking forward to the new group that is going to be taken in the next month, for school. I think the preparations by the department, to me, I'm very happy with what they've presented. Hopefully, because the consultation part of it that Babu Marwa Settler has talked about has been taking place, especially engaging the teacher unions and all the stakeholders that are involved
in education. To me, I think that is a job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Machabalala. Who's next? Honorable Suela.
Chairperson, Honorable Ngobo.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Ngobo before Honorable Suela.
Yes, no, thanks, Chairperson. I just want to first greet and welcome the presentation. Chairperson, we are opening at a time when we have reached infections of about 523 learners and 1,169 teachers, and it's winter. I really do not think it's a good idea to phase in more learners at this time. Actually, even given the fact that there will be more now, and spacing, in spite of all the promised plans, is actually going to be very problematic, like platooning and all those things. We know those things, they happened in the past, they come with their own problems, and here we are dealing with a very abnormal situation. That is one. Secondly, Chairperson, I want to deal with the issue of the examinations, in particular the grade 12s. We will be having the grade 12s writing the examination of the paper that was set way before, like it is the norm. We know it. And the minister was clear in saying they will write that paper. There are going to be no alterations or adjustments that one may think of. That again is a bit problematic. One wonders how that is going to happen. We are talking about an examination set for a normal year, whereas here we're talking about not just an abnormal year, a very abnormal year of an epidemic. One wonders even how Umalusi is going to handle this in terms of the quality and value of the certificates that the grade 12s are going to be having. Chairperson, I want to go to the third one, the 60 years and above of age teachers. These teachers are very vulnerable, and it is okay that they are allowed to work from home or any other, in fact, to retire. They can even do that. Here is my problem, Chairperson. We have too many of them in terms of the figures that were given by the DG. And the DG did go to even to the extent of telling us that arrangements are in place to replace people who need to be replaced. But I fear we have too many of them. We do have Funda Lushaga and we do have the other sources, but I don't think we will be able to replace these people 60 years and above, plus the fatalities that we are likely to suffer in the near or distant future. In particular, because the COVID-19 fatality rate is actually going up, it's rising, and I don't know whether that is being taken into consideration. I'm talking about the fatality rate in general, but worse when it's winter, even worse when we have more learners that are going to be phased in now. The water issue, Mrosatla spoke at length about the water issue. I just want to add a little bit from another angle. Look, we have schools which did not have running water, and therefore they had to be supplied with water tanks and tankers to fill up. My problem is the formula for washing hands. It's either you use a basin to wash the hands, and another learner will come and wash using the same basin, and maybe the third and the fourth. That is not hygienic. And if maybe the method is going to be opening up the tap, water will run dry very quickly. So whichever way, we have a problem with water from the tanks and how it is going to be used. I suspect, for instance, if the tap is opened, even with caution, one learner washes and another one and so on, I suspect that the filling tanker, even before it reaches back the source where it got water shall have already been exhausted in the school where it was filling. I do not know how practical this is going to be, but my suspicion is that there definitely will be problems, and we need to think ahead as to how it is going to happen, especially given the number of learners that are now going to be at school. Chairperson, we have a lot to talk about and questions, but to be fair, maybe I am choosing to stop right here and hear the department really responding to these issues we are raising. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ngobo. Honorable Siwela. Honorable Siwela, are you in? Mr. Siwela? If he's not in the meeting, is there anyone that I've left behind before I give Honorable Machezi? She wants to have another bite, but please take at least a minute or so, Honorable Machezi.
Honorable Chair?
Yes?
I would also just like to add another question.
Can I also add?
Is it Sukers?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And then who
can I also add?
Mashabalala.
Chair, yes.
You'll be number 3. Can you take just a minute, all of you, please?
I need a minute, yes, Ngobo.
Okay.
Just one. A second is enough. Yeah.
Okay. Can in that order? Can we then do that, Honorable Machezi?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I just forgot one thing to ask, the DG. There are a couple of schools that I went to in the Free State, specifically in Bloemfontein, that have already the administration block that needs to be basically it's a new administration block and new administration blocks that needs to be opened, and they were waiting for the MEC to go and open the administration block, like some kind of a ceremony or whatever. Some of these blocks, what I heard is that some of them, they don't have electricity. I just would like to ask maybe if the DG can maybe help, maybe speak to the MEC to intervene and assist those schools to reopen those administration blocks. I don't know if it's something that is throughout the province, but I found about 4 schools who have, a problem with administration blocks that are not opened, that were just built. And also regarding the Funza Lushaka teachers, when were they employed? Are they already in the system? And, those who are coming to replace those teachers with comorbidities, is it on contract basis, or is it, are they coming in full time? And is there a plan for those teachers who are 60 years old that, decide to retire? And is there a plan to actually replace them with other teachers, that need to be employed? So if you could just have clarity on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The question that I just have is in regard to the homeschooling. There has been reports from parents that has attempted to register that they are not getting any responses. Can the DG just indicate how many officials per province are dedicated to processing applications for home education, and the accurate number of applications that was received and the time taken to process them? There are many parents that are waiting on responses from the department. And also in terms of the regulation, the current policy of home visits before applications are approved for home education. There are concerns, obviously, in the midst of the pandemic for somebody coming to visit homes. Is the department going to waive this requirement for home visits? And then just lastly, also to stress, there is the part of the protest here in the Western Cape has to do not only with the anxiety with the winter, but also with the lack of PPEs that are at some of the schools, specifically with the new grades that are now being integrated, together with a lot of deaths that are happening in the Western Cape. So the psychosocial support for schools, as the committee, we must emphasize. In the last 2 weeks, we've had 10 people die in one community alone. And that is what is fueling the anxiety of many parents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm partly covered. Yes, Chairperson. My issue has been touched a little bit on. It's the question of electricity in most of the rural areas. What the department is going to be doing about that. In fact, there's very little it can do about that. But how is that being accommodated? And the signals, even if you do have electricity, the signal is very poor in most areas. Even some of the members of parliament we have witnessed it. They sometimes struggle a lot. I'm just raising it, DG, because of the 3 forms of learning that will also be used just to supplement. Most of my questions, Chairperson, were put like statements, but actually. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. It's Honorable Shabalala. I was
Continue,
number 3,
Honorable
but
Shabalala.
yeah, thanks. I was number 3, but yeah, it's fine. Chairperson, my issue is that I would also want to applaud the department. The fact that people have been opposed for the opening of schools, and there were a number of cases that took the department to court. And in that, in terms of the report is telling us that those court cases was won by the department. We want to applaud that. But I want to emphasize to say that it is not the issue that we have to wait until we are being taken to court. We have to consult as it necessary for all stakeholders and try to satisfy every individual that talk to us and give us their views in terms of what they think about the education of their children. Yes. But the fact that the department has 3 other ways that the parents can opt for, I think we need to encourage the people who think that taking their child to school, it's because we want the children to die or we want the children to get the COVID-19. But the fact of the matter has been shown that the COVID-19 is within the communities and the people get it from where they come from and they go to schools with it already. Thank you very much.
Chairperson.
Honorable.
Chairperson, Honorable van der Walt has also just indicated that she has one question to ask.
1 minute. Okay. You are allowed, Honorable van der Walt. Honorable van der Walt.
Here I am, Chair. Can you hear me now?
We hear you. Continue.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to know from the DG, I see that there's no mention of the provision in the directions that were issued that actually provides for the HOD to exempt a learner whose parents don't want him or her to go to school, and there are no criteria mentioned, no process, and no form and no indication as to how long this can be for. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone who I'm leaving behind before I hand over to the department to respond? Is there anyone, honorable members? If not, before I give the department to respond, there's a question by Honorable Tiwela. He has a challenge of logging in. Maybe it's a network, I don't know, but can I raise a question on his behalf? He says there is a school in Backridge, Tchnlgy. The name of the school is Clavekuza High School, where there are 734 learners with only 12 classes.
The school again?
The name of the school, DM, is Clavekusa, sorry, Clavekusa High School. Clavekusa, yes. In my Manyeleti Second in Bush, but Backridge. Did you capture that one? He says that there are 734 learners with only 12 classes. And it seems as if the differentiated timetabling, including platooning, may not work. The DG or the department clarify him on that one. But let me also just raise a few of my clarity-seeking question. Also, acknowledge and also appreciate the report. It was at length, and I think it has clarified so many uncertainties and questions that members have been having, and as questions, and also as representatives from their respective constituencies has to respond to. But also, I would want to also raise my concern about this form of hybrid technology that we are using. This Teams is not working very well with us. We have raised this. I don't know why it has been brought back to us. I think it needs to be corrected again. That is my first point. But the second point, to members and also DM and the team, I think members have done well in the first phase of reopening by visiting schools and doing oversight, and also monitoring whether all the schools meet the requirements for making sure that we do keep this COVID-19 virus. I think we really appreciate that, because it has made things very easy, not only for us as members, but also as communities, when they see us as leadership, as members of parliament on the ground, also being on their side, making sure that whatever they raise, we see with our own 2 eyes, and we raise it with or we escalate it to your department, and also being able to respond to some of the challenges that we have
actually experience on the ground, and I really appreciate also your prompt work that you have done in making sure that you respond to such. But we cannot shy away from the reality that we see, whether it's on TV or even in communities where we live in, that really there's a process or this time, this period of this lockdown and the coronavirus pandemic also have divided the society, and it has affected now the schools and the learners, also with teachers and parents. Others will agree that kids need to be in school. Others will disagree, saying that they will catch the virus. But we have seen that there was a positive response when we see on the first phase, or on the 8th of July, when or 8th of June, my apology, when many of schools that were ready were reopening, and learners and teachers were also participating and going back to school. With those challenges that we know of, members have spoken at length about the known challenges, the issue of transport, DG. I think it will also remain a concern when we heard the Minister of Health raising it as a concern that as are being or regulations are being lessened, and many people are going back to work, and there's a lot of movement now around the country. We expect to see a peak period in these two coming weeks, whereby we will see many positive cases that will be recorded, and it has started happening. And it somehow affect the second phase of reopening of schools. So when many of learners and teachers now have to go back to school. I would also want to check with the DG and DM. Aren't you going to look into considering also changing the exam papers for the matriculants or the grade 12s? Because members have also raised it to say we are not in a normal time whereby they had ample time of being taught and studied. Now we are faced with this pandemic, and maybe we must consider changing the exam papers, maybe altering it, I don't know, but maybe also just consult and try to work on it, because it is also one of the burning issues that is raised, especially by student movements, especially of course, us to say, how can it remain the same if we know that we are not in the same, we don't have the same ample of time to go all through the lessons. But I hear that the members are in agreement with the second phase and also the reopening of schools. It has worked. We've seen that, and where there are challenges, more especially when the schools were not meeting those requirements, they were not being able to open up until they do. We visited some of the schools. We saw in the first week of the 8th, they did not do well, but they made sure that they make all the things possible for them to, when the kids or learners come to school, everything will be in place. So we've seen that happening in our areas, and we are confident that the department is working very hard to make sure that no learners will be, and teachers will also be in danger, more especially intentionally, knowing that there are no precautionary measures in such a school and allow such a school to open. But I would say also the members must continue also to visit and monitor the schools as when we go to the second phase on the 6th or 7th of July. To make sure that we do the same as we did. I think it has worked wonders. It is noted that whatever we did as members, our time that we used to visit the school, it did benefit our communities. Let me pause there and allow the department to respond. DM.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, and want to appreciate the invitation once again, and also the attentive listening by members and the contributions by members. What I want to appreciate the most members were not raising questions necessarily, were giving inputs on the things that will enhance the work of the department. We really appreciate. But I know that among the questions which are very serious, which members raised, are questions on comorbidities and the teachers 60 years and above, the psychosocial support, the grade 12 results. I heard one member saying grade 12 and 7 will be writing the same exam. No, grade 7 will be writing a grade 7 exam. Grade 12 will be writing a grade 12 exam. The exam that we said is ready, is grade 12 examination, because we are not going to tamper with the curriculum. As grade 12, it's an FET phase. It starts from grade 10. So it's not easy to say we can rework on the curriculum, because it's a phase, it's grade 10, 11, and 12. And that's why the exam has long been ready. And if we say want to restructure it, it means they are going to write somewhere next year, because it's a process to set a paper for grade 12. But I want to give DG to respond on specific, because there are specific questions like your homeschooling and the directives, the increased number of infections, which there's nothing that education can do on that one, because it's a matter that is affecting the whole world and our country, South Africa. And it's worse, because as South Africa yesterday, President was saying he was a bit disappointed that we are rating at number 3 in the whole world. So it means we are moving with a speed, though we are given all the instructions how to live, social distancing, and putting face masks, washing of hands, but still some South Africans are acting extremely irresponsible. That's why the number is increasing. It's not increasing because schools have opened, because most of the teachers and the learners who are positive, they were not infected at school, most of them. They came from the community, they came to school, then when they were tested, they found that they are positive. So I'm going to allow the DG to give response even on the, what is that, Rand water, etc. But he did present, and as members were asking questions, they did say that DG clarified the matter. But I would like the DG again to clarify it again. Over to you, DG.
Honorable Chair, honorable members, the Honorable Deputy Minister, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you ever so much for your comments and your questions. They are all important. They are extremely vital in holding us accountable. But also for your positive response in our efforts and our presentation. Thank you ever so much. Deputy Minister, I've got an average of about 5 questions per member, and I've recorded 11 members who participated. So I've tried to capture all of them, and I hope that I've captured all of them. Let me start with Honorable Machesi. Honorable Machesi wanted to know about teachers with COVID-19 who have tested positive to the COVID-19 or coronavirus. And she wanted to know how many of these teachers had comorbidities, those teachers who tested positive to COVID-19. How many of them had comorbidities? I'm sure we can find out from the Department of Health, but that information we don't have because we don't usually track and say from this teacher who tested positive, was there any comorbidity related to testing positive? We don't have it regular. We don't collect that information, but we can find out from the Department of Health. And Honorable Machesi also, I think, wanted to know, which is a question which was asked by other members as well, as to why are we not offering retirement opportunities to teachers who are 60 years. People are at liberty to retire from age 55. From age 55, and at age 60, you can actually retire with no penalty at all. And I'm sure Mr. Ngabo can confirm that. From age 60, you can retire with no penalty at all. But the legal provision for a retirement age in South Africa is 65 years. And many of these people who stay on until 65, we suspect that some of them are those who left the system at some point to cash their bonuses so that they could get money to pay for the education of their children, especially those children who were deemed to be the missing middle, who were not poor enough to get a bursary from government or a grant from government. And parents had to...
DG, can I disturb you for a minute? I'm made aware that we are left with only 15 minutes. Is it possible for you to cluster those questions and summarize them as quickly as possible, because we have another 2 items to deal with?
Well, I'll try and do that, Chair.
Okay.
So that's the issue around 60 years and retirement. Ideally, people would retire at age 60, but the law allows them to stay on until 65. Now, 52% and transport, and our timetable models even help to reduce the numbers to 50% and less. We are concerned about what is happening in the transport industry. Our minister will be in constant interaction with the Minister of Transport to try and make sure that we don't become a spillover of the unfortunate that might happen in the transport industry. Honorable Machesi, regarding the schools that you referred to, which require electricity, will follow up with the Free State. Honorable van der Walt, thank you ever so much for appreciating our efforts. Plans outside schools, well, some provinces have engaged, and I think Honorable Sukers also raised the issue, are going to use church halls, they are going to use community halls. They'll also be bringing in mobile units to provide schools that cannot fully implement the 5 models that are provided in the directions. The issue of the tender tender of supplying TVs and ending on the 2nd of July, it's a matter that is in the space of the Department of Communication, So we will work with the Department of Communication to make sure that learners really benefit out of this. And the issue of who's responsible for water and sanitation, you're absolutely right. Maybe let me answer the question. There is a memorandum of agreement between DBE, Department of Water and Sanitation, and Rand Water. It's a triumvirate. It involves 3 entities. I signed that. That's how I come to know about it. We've signed it with Department of Water and Sanitation because the entities which control the source of water, like water boards and others, fall under that department. We don't have the authority over them. We've signed with Rand Water because Rand Water is the implementing agent. The money, the 600 million, is allocated to basic education, and basic education has got to account on every cent of the 600 million. And I'm going to ask David to explain to Mr. Boshoff and break down the arithmetic, because I seem to have gone too quickly in my presentation in that arithmetic, and Mr. Boshoff is saying there's still more questions than answers. So David will answer that. So I hope it answers the question of Honorable Murad Settlers to, is the memorandum of agreement? Yes, it is there. We signed it before we could transfer the first tranche, and we transferred a tranche of 200 million out of 600. 400 million is still with us, and we are saying before we could transfer the next tranche of either 200 or 400 million, we have to satisfy ourselves that the 200 million, every cent can be accounted for. David will explain that. Honorable King, yes, the PPEs for schools of learners with special education needs, we fully agree with you. Provinces have provided for that, especially in instances where you can't avoid. Learners are going to be touching educators and so on. They will be fully clad in that PPEs. That's the only part where we are talking about PPEs, because they'll be covered from the head to the toe. That's the only time when we talk PPEs in basic education. I've spoken about the issue of 60 years and above. NSNP, well, I agree with you, Honorable King. Western Cape, the only reason why Western Cape was, Western Cape fed during lockdown when it was illegal to do so. Lockdown regulations did not allow them to do so, but on hindsight, indeed they did, it's something good, which should be commended, but it doesn't make what they did regular. It was irregular because the law didn't allow for that. Fencing and non-fencing, we could get this information and provide the information at the right time. The trial exam is still going to happen. The full exam is likely going to happen. In fact, there's a recommendation going to CEM, and the intention is that exams must begin in November and end around the 22nd of December. Matric camps, anything health, safety, and physical distancing requirements must be adhered to all the time. There is no room for compromise. It's in our regulations, that our directions, and our directions are the law. Capacity of municipalities, I was really shocked dealing with the water and sanitation project. I didn't know the magnitude of this problem. I've woken up to that reality. My view is that it's a serious problem, and the minister has taken it up with the president. Honorable Sukers, yes, I agree with you. Not all is equal across the country. 50% occupancy, the impact, what about? Yes, I've answered the churches and so on. More engagement, community halls, yes, we are doing that. Matric camps, I've also attempted to respond to it. Honorable and Dr. Tembekwayo, the mobile classrooms are intended to add, in addition to the 5 models that are providing a relief for more learners in the classroom. The problem is that more often than not, something that does not exist in the physical doesn't mean that it will never exist in the physical. When it is an idea, some of us have the burden to push it through so that those who can only see things with the naked eye will then begin to realize them in the course of time. The issue of the names of the schools, 2 girls who got raped, we've heard about this thing. It's really unfortunate. It shouldn't happen. And especially because unavailability of transport, we have taken it up with the Department of Education in Limpopo. And quickly, Honorable Muratsetla, yes, consultation, I believe. And I think one of the things that we had neglected, Honorable Muratsetla, is to establish QLTC structures from the bottom, from district level, to take into account, all stakeholders. The success of our democratic dispensation in education can be traced back in the ability of civil society to participate. People used to talk about people-centered, people-driven education. And I think our QLTCs have not lived up to that example. We have appointed a new director. One of the new tasks that you need to carry out is to make sure that civil society is involved right from the beginning so that it becomes bottom-up and not top-down approach. So I take your advice and I take your views. And even with the differentiated timetables, the caution that we have given is that it must be bottom-up and not top-down. It should be teachers, school management teams, and SGBs who are saying, our model is going to be this one, is going to work for us. I've answered the issue of the water boards, and I agree with you. It's a bit unreasonable to expect Rand Water to cover the whole country when other water boards are there, and they should take that responsibility. Honorable Mashabela, I'm sure because we have not seen each other for a long time, we used to meet at the airport, and some of this information I used to share with you. And I understand that maybe the agitation is that the distance between us has been just too long and too big. We will provide any information that is required to this honorable committee, to honorable members, and provide any granular details of whatever expense has been incurred for. The Auditor General is auditing already every expense linked to COVID-19. Honorable Boshoff, Mr. van der Westhuizen will quickly respond to you. I'm just finishing. Honorable Chabalala, I've also covered, I agree with you, Mama, that consultation is the only way. We are here, we are where we are today because of broad consultation. We are a product of broad consultation as a democratic dispensation. Honorable Ngobo, the issue of infections and winter, the medical experts are saying it does not exist in their literature. It only exists in social media and social gatherings. The experts in medicine and science, they are saying to suggest that winter is going to exacerbate the spreading of the virus. It doesn't exist in their literature. Nonetheless, we will balance public opinion informed by fear and anxiety with what we need to do. We are very flexible in our plans, and you will see when the minister and MECs announce that indeed they would have taken all these variables into account. I've spoken about the matric exams, 60 years and so on, differentiated timetables, I've spoken to that as well. Formula for washing hands, the hand washing basins that we use now, they are not allowed to keep water. Children wash their hands there and water goes through immediately. And I fully agree with your observation in that regard. Honorable Aduns, I've taken note of the name of the schools that you have given to us. Winter and increase of the infection, I've responded to that. Change in the exam paper, grade 12 or the National Senior Certificate has to remain sacrosanct. has to remain sacrosanct. You don't want to have a child in your house, to have a nephew or a niece who will perpetually be referred to carrying a stigma of saying this is a matric group of 2020 which was treated differently from other groups that went through previously. We are preparing these children for this country. We are preparing them for the continent. We are preparing them for the world. We believe they are the best and should be able to compete with the best in the world. And they must be taken through the same standards. We are not going to lower any standards for grade 12 exams. I'm going to ask David, Honorable Deputy Minister, just to do the arithmetic of what I went through of the breakdown of phase 1 budget for Honorable Boshoff. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the honourable members. I will try to do this as quickly as possible. I have in the chat line included my email address, so if honourable member Boshoff or any other would like to get some more details, we can deal with those. If we quickly run through the numbers, the figure that the DG referred to on the water supply, 3,335, consists of 711 schools with existing tanks, and then 624 schools that need new tanks. So under the Rand Water contract, we had to supply those tanks. So if we then go to the breakdown of the figures, to supply these 5,000 litre tanks to the 2,624 schools, Rand Water procured these tanks from 40 different suppliers. Those are all the major suppliers, Jojo, Roto Tanks, and all the others, but in total about 40 different suppliers. The average price that we paid for those tanks was 519 Rand and 72 cents. So that adds up to about 13 million. Then those tanks are available at the depot of the supplier, and you need to put them in the back of a truck and take them to wherever they need to be located. Some of them hundreds of kilometers further. So we spend a further about 8 million getting these tanks transported to the school where they belong. So that takes you to about 21 million. Then the stands. Initially, we planned to have proper stands, brick-built stands. We simply ran out of time. There was no time to do that. And the agreement was that we split this into phase 1, which is a temporary stand, which is at ground level, very basic. That's about the 3,300 Rand that Member Boshoff also quoted. So that takes you to about 30 million for this whole installation. I think the missing part of the calculation is the cost of the water and the actual delivery of the water. These schools, the 3,335 schools, represent about 1.5 million learners. If we work on a very basic water demand of about 5 litre per person per day, we can do those calculations and say we need to buy this water from municipalities at the round figure of about 20 Rand per kilolitre. So that adds another 6 million to this cost if you calculate that over a 2-month period. And then you come to the actual delivery of the water. That's the big bucks. To put water into a truck and then drive it around instead of putting it in the pipeline is a very expensive way of delivering water. So there is a 96 million allocated to the delivery of the water. So that brings you to a total of 131 million. Rand Water is paid an implementing agent fee of 5%. They appointed service providers to deal with all the local content, local economic development, local labor. And these social facilitators get paid a fee of 3.5%. And then we made an allowance for disbursements of 1.5%. So that brings us to a total of about 145. On top of that, because of the uncertainties, there were questions about the accuracy of the data. There are questions about actual access routes and the availability of materials. So we allowed a 20% contingency, but that contingency remains under our control. So there's about a 29 million contingency, takes you to 174. And if you then put VAT on top of that, you come to 200. So those are the rough numbers on the 200, and that's the only money that we are currently dealing with. The question about the 400 we haven't touched it. The 400 is untouched and has not been transferred to nobody. And we will wrap up phase 1 and cash up phase 1 before we start any implementation on phase 2. I just want to repeat, if there's anybody that want any further information, I've posted my personal email address there. You are welcome to contact me. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the honourable members.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, DM. I wanted you to hand over to me.
Yeah, that's why I'm coming in and saying on the specific names of schools, like DG has indicated, we will report to members, like the school in Bushbuck region, the school in the one that the Mkive, and Mkive, as far as we're concerned as the department, the children were relocated to another school, and the municipality has given them a land. They are going to build a new school. For now, it's true that the mine has donated mobile classroom, but they are not yet there at the site. They are still working the site to put electricity, water, and fencing. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, DM. Thank you very much for the responses. Can we close this item where we have exhausted the item for 3 hours now? Can we move? We have only 30 minutes left for us to finish with the business of the meeting, because we have another meeting of plenary that we're supposed also to log into and participate as members. Are we in agreement? Who's speaking?
It's Honorable Sukas here.
Okay, Honorable Sukas.
Chair, if we could just ask the department, because of time, I understand if they cannot respond, but if they can please respond on the homeschooling questions that was asked. It is a very serious matter. I'm sure I don't need to emphasize that, my apologies. But if they can, it's serious for parents that they get answers on the questions that I have asked. Okay.
Sorry?
Can I allow Gigi?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I did hear you. You did respond to that, but can you just re-emphasize your response so that we can close this item?
I'm terribly sorry. I skipped this one. My advice is that any information that members may come across, they can refer those matters to me. My contact number and my email address is there, but we'll also address this concern because Honorable Sukers has raised the matter with me, and we have started to address it with provinces. But please feel free, if parents are battling, they can be referred to me. I can be reached through WhatsApp, I can be reached through SMS or even email. Then I will forward the request or the application and follow through to make sure they are assisted. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, DG. Thank you. Members,
Thank
can you all do that? If we have any information regarding any school, just forward the information, all the information to the DG or the DM herself, because they can be in a position to assist. I know for a fact that myself as a parent, I've received a communique from the province to say, if I need to make arrangement for homeschooling, I can do so. They are available to assist me to, if I don't want my kids to attend in the school. So I know there is such a communication that is happening, but maybe in reference to certain schools or certain parents that are raising this concern, can we also do that, honorable members? Be specific to say school so and so in which province, and maybe if it's necessary, the name of the parents and all that. I think it will really assist to make sure that we fast track in assisting our communities. Thank you very much, DM and the team. We are off this this item. We are in agreement that we must support the reopening in the schools, and we must make sure that we monitor all the schools in our area to make sure that they do comply and no kid or teachers will be at risk in our faces. So for this item, can we then ask if Honorable DM would want to excuse themselves? They can do that, because we're gonna continue with two items that we need to deal with as a portfolio committee.
Thank you so much, Chair, and goodbye.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye, DM. Honorable members, we have the proposed extended and adjusted committee program framework. It's a draft, hence I'm saying it's a proposal that will start on the 30th of June. It is today, or up until the 14th of July. Remember this, it was a time when we're supposed to go we're supposed to go for recess. But because of, we know that we need to deal with the adjustments, budget, and all that, we needed to do them before we go to recess, and then deal with other matters when you come back. But here is the proposal. I'm sure all of you have the emails, or we had them emailed to you. It will be meetings that will be done jointly with the NCOP component of education. All the meetings will be joint meetings. I'm sure you can see that, members. Can we speak on the draft? Can we adopt the draft and take it as a document that we're going to work with? Members? Anyone in agreement with the draft? Am I alone in this meeting? Hello?
No, you're not, Chair. You're not. I think members are considering the implications.
Or then raise your insatisfaction then, so that we deal with them. What are the implications?
Can I ask, please?
Yes.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Is there
Can I
no?
also come in?
I just want to find out. Is there no any other date for Friday, 3rd July?
This coming Friday.
Yeah. Don't you have another time except on a Friday?
What's happening, honorable member?
No, I'm not used to having meetings on Fridays, please. Can you find an alternative day, an exclusive Friday, please, if it's possible?
Members, what is your take on that one?
Chair, it's Chair, my hand is up. I don't mind if I'm available, but if you do continue on Friday, I put an apology. I'm not available in an area with signal on Friday.
Okay.
This Friday, thank you.
Next, any view again? Can we hear your views, members?
I'm also actually available this Friday, so can we look at another date, please?
Okay. Are we in agreement that we will find another suitable date for Friday?
Yes,
are we in agreement, members? Can it be maybe then on Thursday rather than on Friday? On Thursday, sorry. On the 2nd of July. Can it be done on the 2nd of July? Can you check, Mr. Brown, if you can do that?
Chairperson,
I'm not available on Thursday.
Chairperson.
Yes.
Chairperson. Thursday is not a caucus day.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
might not work.
There was no time included in that slot, whether it's on, even if it's on Friday. It was only the meeting of today where there is time included, but from there, the three other meetings that follows, there's no time included. Maybe if you can agree to have, if we have it, then also include time, Mr. Brown. At least if we put time, it will make it easy for us to know. But I think members are raising a concern on the issue of Friday, and you can even hear non-availability of members. So it is up to us members whether we can do it maybe on the 7th of July and also on the 9th of July, or the 8th, 7 and 8 actually. Can we check that one if we cannot do them 7 and 8 of July?
Honorable Adwins, it's Llewellyn, the committee secretary.
Yes.
On the issue of time slots, unfortunately, we are at the discretion of our unit. They will supply us with time slots once this has been agreed to. So therefore, there was no time slots indicated. I'll have a look at moving the meeting for Friday, possibly to Tuesday, and then shift Umalusi and Sace maybe a bit later in the week, if that is agreement with members.
Okay. Later in the week must not be on Thursday because all political parties have their caucuses. Consider it on Wednesday. Can it be Tuesday and on Wednesday, 7 and 8? And then check also on the time that will be suitable for all of us. I think we must agree on something. We cannot just say, me, I'm available on this date. Me, I'm not used to these meetings. Because it means all of us are going to have our own apologies. Can we then leave it at that to say, Mr. Brown, can you find time for those time be included in this draft, and then also inform us on the 7 and 8 meetings? Which one will come first?
Okay, Chair, can I come in, please?
Yeah, Mashezi.
Okay, no, I agree. I support that the Wednesday. Okay, I was actually even tomorrow would have been fine. But there's one thing that I think maybe we should maybe take into consideration. I would like, because next week learners are going back to school, so every time when we the department comes to present, I would like maybe to be given just a brief amount of time to present on the update of COVID-19, because we have to keep our pulse on it constantly, so that we are in touch with the department on what is happening on the ground.
Okay. So we are in agreement, members?
Yes.
In agreement to next week, Wednesday and Tuesday. Is that the proposal, Chair?
Yes, it is, Honorable Sukes. All right, no, it's fine. Then, Mr. Brown, you will include time for our, and also make sure that those ones of NCOP get the same message that we will receive. We don't want the challenges that we faced when we had to sit on the joint meetings. Can we pass on this one?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Can we then go to the minutes? Can we deal with the corrections on page 1? It was only 2 items: consideration and adoption of the draft minutes of the 19th. It was a joint meeting, 19th May 2020. The second item, it was a consideration and adoption of the draft committee report on budget votes.
Chairperson, I don't see Honorable Ngobo here. I don't see him on the agenda. He was present, at least. He was present. He even spoke.
of the second page, Honorable Ngobo, you are the first. On the second page, on the top, it's you with the name continuing.
Okay, thank
All
you,
right.
thank you. It was too fast.
Yeah, okay. All right. And page 2 is also names of the NCOP component. Page 3, there also continuing names. The introduction of the meeting was done by the chairperson. She welcomed all in the meeting. The roll call was done, and the purpose of the meeting was explained by the chairperson, Honorable Gigaba, which was to consider and adopt the minutes of the last meeting, and also by the directive of the House Chair on the adoption and consideration of the budget vote. It was on page 3, page 4. It continues where we consider the budget vote, and the conclusion is there on the page 4, and the meeting agenda at 7:15. That is the content of the minutes. Is there any questions or clarities or corrections before we move to adopt the minutes? Members, can we then move to adopt the minutes if there are no corrections and questions and clarities? I can't see if people are raising hands. Can you assist me, Mr. Brown? Hello?
Chairperson, I'm not seeing any members raising any...
Chairperson, Chairperson, I move for the adoption of minutes.
Is it me, Honorable Siwela?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Siwela moves for the adoption of the minutes. Any seconder? Any seconder? Hello? Members, can you close the meeting? Can we finish, please?
Are they still in?
Are they still in, by the way? Maybe it's only the two of us, Mr. Swela.
It's possible.
Is there anything wrong by adopting minutes, members? Can we move to adopt the minutes, please? Honorable Mbingo Gigaba, you were part. Honorable Shabalala, Honorable Malachi, Mwasetla, Siwela,
Chairperson, can I assist? Honorable Ngobo hereby moves.
Thank you very much for saving the day, Mr. Ngobo. You are always our hero in these meetings. Thank you very much, honorable members. I think we've exhausted the time. It was a very fruitful meeting. Now we are going to be faced with another challenge of the reopening and phase 2 in the schools. We must pull our socks and work very hard and revisit those schools and make sure that we do our oversight work. We have another pandemic that is within our society, which is gender-based violence. There will also be a debate on that today. We also know that it is a societal matter, and it needs all our efforts as leaders, as communities, as stakeholders, as society to come together in dealing with this pandemic that we are faced with. With those few words, members, can we meet on the 2 o'clock plenary? For now, the meeting stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, members.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Brown, can you close the meeting now? How do I leave here?